You ever just tap on an app icon and boom, it just works? We totally take it for granted, right? But behind that one simple tap, there's this whole incredible journey, from a developer's first idea all the way to the program living on your screen. Today, we're going to follow that path from blueprint to reality and uncover the secret life of an app.
So, here's our game plan. We've got 5 key stops on this journey. First up, we're going to step into the developer's digital workshop. Then, we'll see how they design the visual part you actually interact with. After that, we dive into the rules, the code that makes it smart. Then, we'll see how it connects to live data. And finally, we'll explore the surprisingly complex life an app leads right on your device.
I mean, it really can feel like magic. So how does a simple idea turn into this interactive living thing that you use every single day? Well, let's pull back the curtain and find out.
Okay, our journey starts right here, in what you can think of as the developer's digital workshop. This is ground zero. It's the place where that initial spark of an idea gets hammered into the actual lines of code that become an application.
And this workshop has a proper name. It's called an Integrated Development Environment, or just IDE for short. The best way to think of it is as a software architect's command center. It's not just a fancy text editor, it's a complete all-in-one toolkit for creation.
And this is what makes an IDE so powerful. It has a compiler, which is basically a translator that turns human-readable code into machine code that a computer actually understands. It's got component libraries. Think of these like pre-built Lego bricks for stuff like buttons and menus, so developers don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. And crucially, it has tools like a debugger, which is kind of like a spell checker for code, to help find and fix bugs. It's got everything needed, all in one unified space.
All right, so now that we've seen the workshop, let's look at how all those tools are used to build the part of the app that we all see and touch, the visual interface.
You know, just like an architect starts with an empty plot of land, a developer starts with a blank canvas. This empty window, often called a form, is the absolute foundation that the entire user experience is going to be built on.
From there, they start adding the main structure. Using those pre-built components we just talked about, they can quickly lay out things like tabs and panels to organize the space. It's almost like putting up the digital framing of a house. In this example, it looks like a catalog for vintage computers, and you can already see a pretty complex layout taking shape.
And here it is, the final visual blueprint. The interface is now filled out with all the interactive bits and pieces, lists, buttons, image viewers, you name it. It looks complete, doesn't it? But here's the secret. At this point, it's still basically just a pretty picture. None of these buttons actually do anything, yet.
A beautiful design is pretty useless if it's just static. So now we get to the part where we give this blueprint its intelligence by writing the code that makes everything work.
This slide shows you that magic connection. On the left, you've got the visual interface. On the right, you have the source code that acts as its brain. Notice how those arrows show a direct link between a visual element, like that list of computer models, and a specific block of code. That code dictates exactly what happens when you click, scroll, or type anything.
So here's the key takeaway. Developers write code that basically just sits there and listens for you to do something. Your actions are called events. So when you click a button, you trigger an on-click event. The code that's tied to that event then springs to life and performs a task, like adding an item to a list or saving your work. This is what makes an app feel truly interactive.
Now, an app that only works with information you type into it is one thing, but the most powerful apps are connected to the whole world. So let's see how an app gets its information, transforming it from a static shell into a dynamic, living tool.
You see, most apps don't actually store all their data on your phone. Instead, the app on your device is a client. As this diagram shows, it sends requests out over the internet to a powerful remote server. That server is where the central database is. You can see it labeled here as BDD for base de datos. That's where all the real information lives. This constant back and forth is how your weather app gets the latest forecast or your social feed updates.
And the real trick is making this connection feel completely seamless. Modern development uses concepts called live bindings. And just like the quote says, this creates a living link. It means that when data changes on the server, say a friend posts a new photo, it just appears in your app's feed automatically. No need to hit refresh. It's a dynamic two-way street for data.
Okay, so the app is built, it's connected to data, and it's finally installed on your phone. So the developer's job is done, right? Well, not quite. Now we get to explore its life after it's been released into the wild.
This is the final act in our story. We know how it's built, but how does it actually run? How does your phone manage dozens of apps all at once without just grinding to a halt?
Well, the secret lies in a very carefully managed life cycle.
It's really easy to think of an app as being either on or off, kind of like a light switch, but it's so much more sophisticated than that. In reality, an app is constantly moving through a whole series of well-defined states, and it's all managed by your phone's operating system to save battery and memory.
Let's use the Android operating system as an example. It has a really strict set of rules for an app's life, as you can see right here in this table. Each stage, from onCreate all the way to onDestroy, has a very specific purpose. And this isn't a suggestion, it's a command from the operating system to make sure everything runs smoothly.
And this cycle is always in motion, all based on what you're doing. So, you tap an icon, the app is created, started, and then resumed, making it active on your screen. You get a text and swipe over to your messaging app, the first app is told to on-pause. You go back to your home screen, it gets the on-stop command and disappears from view. And if you haven't used it for a while and your phone needs more memory, the OS will just step in and call on-destroy, shutting it down completely to free up those resources.
This whole lifecycle management system is really the unsung hero of your device. It is precisely what allows you to multitask, to switch between a bunch of apps without everything crashing or losing your data. It's absolutely essential for that efficient, stable experience we all expect.
So, the next time you tap an icon or swipe an app away, just remember that incredible journey it took to get there and the complex life it leads right there on your screen. You're not just multitasking, you're the director of an entire life cycle. The only question is, which state did you just trigger?